Hello, my friend. Welcome to my show. My name is Michael. If this is the first time you're coming to my show, please subscribe on your way in, or at least be part of the discussion. If you have been here several times, you're welcome back. And let's roll. Today, I have 5 major things to discuss with you. I have talked a lot. The first on the list is the amazing event that happened yesterday, the official certification of the election of Donald Trump as the 47th president of the United States by the same person that lost to him. The next thing on the agenda is the view getting crazy. Of course, the media and all will always see outrage in everything. When the certification was going on today, they were not talking about yesterday, they were talking about 4 years ago when there was a riot in the capital. But somebody took it to a different level. Somebody compared it to a very heinous historical event. An event, so-called insurrection, where there was no single arm among the people who were committing this insurrection. Just leave it there for now until we get to the point. And the next thing is Trump today wading into the Ukraine and Russia issue. Before he continued, he made a point that nobody wants to talk about, that there was a stance by Russia that Ukraine is not going to join NATO. I don't know why that stance was made, but what I understand is that Russia says it jeopardizes their national security. Trump mentioning that position is significant. We'll come to know why. Also, just while the conference was going on, there was a breaking news. The breaking news was that Judge Ellen Cannon denied Jack Smith's request to produce a report on his classified information investigation. It's obvious. He was thrown out of the case, both the fact that he doesn't have the stand, he was illegally appointed, and then when you're thrown out of the case, why would you write a report? Like the Russia report that formed the basis for ad nauseum discussion, ad nauseum attack by the so-called experts throughout the 4 years Trump was in office the last time around. And finally today, Mark Zuckerberg finally gave up the matrimonial bond he had with the woke. He gave up the censorship community. He now embraced MAGA. Whether he embraced 100% or 1%, I have no idea. But I will post for you a short video he made denouncing censorship, denouncing wokeness, and denouncing fact-checking by ideologues, and decided to adopt a new method that you will also see. So, without further ado, let's go to it. Yesterday was January 6th, a historical day. January 6, 2021, there was a riot in the capital. But before that riot, there was a speech that ended with, "You can now go peacefully and patriotically make your voice heard." Peacefully and patriotically make your voice heard. Why did I say that twice? Because for more than 3 years, for 4 years, there was no single place you saw the legacy media quote this. It's usually cut out. And the question is why? Because when you put that, the narrative of insurrection shoot itself off the orbit. A lot of information hidden from that day just came out recently. One of them was a documentary video made by Nancy Pelosi's own child, where Nancy Pelosi was wailing that she was responsible for what happened that day, for not taking care of the security. At the certification of the election yesterday, Kamala Harris, the person, Globacher, Amy Globacher, has been in charge of security somehow. And she's talked about how everything had been put in place to make it quicker to deploy the National Guard. And nobody in the media had asked, why was it not deployed on time 4 years ago? Because Trump continued to say it. I gave them National Guard and they rejected it. Why did they reject it? Is it because RAF was asking them to come in? Or was it because they were actually ushered in by the police? Or was it because FBI had 26 confidential sources in the group? If they had that number, does it not mean that they played a role in what happened? Where are those people? How come the January 6th didn't find them? So that is a lay up to the certification yesterday. So I have a short sound bite for you to listen. When that history was made. What history was made? The history that was made was the second time in the history of the country a non-consecutive presidency was won. Another one. The first time in the history of the country a woman certified election for her own loss. And a more innuendo-like one. The first time in the history of any place in the world that a woman handed over the government of a country to Hitler. Yes, remember, he was Hitler. He was Stalin, Lenin, a fascist. And she handed over the presidency of the country to him. Were they lying? Or were they trying to hoodwink the people into voting them? That is the question I would want you to answer. Did you believe them? If you did, why? Didn't you believe them? Of course, I don't think you believe them because you do your own due diligence. Now, here is the soundbite, the glorious soundbite. If it is Trump, you say the beautiful soundbite from that certification.
The state of the vote for the President of the United States, as delivered to the President of the Senate, is as follows. The whole number of the electors appointed to vote for President of the United States is 538. Within that whole number, the majority is 270. The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes. Kamala D. Harris
just right there, that was it. That history was made, 3 of them there and multiple more. He received how many? That's it. That's when he officially became the president-elect because he won more votes according to the counts. Now, there were events that preceded this, but they are too long for this. This is what I wanted to, this particular soundbite is what I wanted to show. The same person they called Hitler, the same person they called a fascist, the same person they raided his house, the same person they kept in the court, the same person the media tore into pieces, the same person that got 98% negative coverage from ABC, MSNBC, officially became president-elect, 47th president-elect of the United States. Isn't it interesting? They call it the greatest political comeback in history. I call it the greatest survival story I have ever read. So let's hear the remaining part of that discussion and then continue with our journey.
Kamala D. Harris of the state of California has received 226 votes.
Yeah, she deserves some grace too. I think so. At least she was more graceful here than during the election.
The whole number of electors appointed to vote for Vice President of the United States is 538. Within that whole number, a majority is 270. The votes for Vice President of the United States are as follows. J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio has received 312 votes.
Well, I think that tells the whole story. And this is it. J.D. Vance is another story of resilience, survival from nowhere to somewhere in a very short while. Hard work, that is the way it shows. 312 votes. If you tell me that Trump will win popular vote this year, of course I believe it. But seeing it happen added glory to it. Because when he won the first time, they said, he won only the electoral college. He didn't have the mandate. Now, a man was saying, Trump won 49% of the vote and non-Trump won 51%. I said, listen, there were only two people with their vice in the election, Kamala and Trump. There was no third person called non-Trump. So TDS cannot do you any good. Just move on. And that takes me to the next point we have this night. The media couldn't get themselves in order. They couldn't let this go without showing that the TDS is going nuclear. Now, listen to this soundbite and let me know what you think at the comment.
Now, hours from now, Vice President Harris will fulfill her duty to certify the 2024 election. And she gave this message to the American people.
By the way, mind you, this particular comment was made before the certification. But why I played it after the certification is to show what continued after the certification was, though not as crazy as this, but that is from every left-wing media, it was the same case. For them, it was the worst evil that happened in the history of any part of the world, even worse than, in the same level with the Holocaust. Is it true? Watch Sonny Hostin respond to this particular statement Whoopi was making.
What do we do?
I think we need to find moral clarity, in this country. And I just remember after January 6th, you had someone like Mitch McConnell placing the blame on January 6th where it belonged, squarely on Donald Trump's shoulders. Mm-hmm. And then you started seeing people backtrack that and losing their moral center. You had Condoleezza Rice, I believe, on this very show saying, we need to move on from January 6th. I say no. You don't move on, because January 6th was an atrocity. It was one of the worst moments in American history. And when you think about the worst moments in American history, like World War II, things that happened, like the Holocaust, chattel slavery.
World War II, Holocaust, and slavery, those are on the same par with January 6th riots that they termed insurrection. I don't know what you people think, but does it look like the person saying this has sanity at all? To group such just one day activity into every single thing she mentioned lasted at least more than 1 year. At least a year. And she equated them with few hours activity, because that very same day, the activity was completed. The certification of the election was completed. The ritual was completed. You see that their hyperbole takes away the truth from any statement they are making. So, that's on that. Leave Sonny. Sonny will always be Sonny. Of course, she forgets to remind us every time that her family owned slave. If that had been Trump or any other person in Trump's orbit, she would say it every day she mentioned Trump's name. But no, it was silenced. So, in the next point we are going to talk about, Trump had a very long interview today at Mar-a-Lago, where he delved into a lot of points, especially things he will do on the first day, including the January 6th pardoning them. And somebody was asking him if he was going to pardon even the criminals among them. He didn't reply that way. Rather, he answered that they should remember that the only person that died that day was Ashley Babbitt and one other person that he's trying to figure out. And that no, they should not change that narrative that it was only Ashley Babbitt that died that day and that she was not supposed to die. That people who saw her actually confirmed that she was trying to bring some decorum and she was shot in cold blood. But then the point I want to raise in the interview was regarding the war in Ukraine, what he was going to do. So let's listen to that soundbite.
I wanted to ask you about Ukraine and Putin. How soon do you anticipate going to meet with Putin to discuss the Ukraine situation?
Well, I can't tell you that, but I know that Putin would like to meet. I don't think it's appropriate that I meet until after the 20th, which I hate, because, you know, every day people are being, many young people are being killed, soldiers. You know, the land is very flat, and hundreds of thousands of soldiers from each, many hundreds of thousands from each side are dead, and they're laying in fields all over the place. Nobody to even collect. There's landmines all over. It's a disaster. But it's very flat. It's great. It's farmland, and it's very flat. And the only thing that stops a bullet is the human body. And the human body is stopping a lot of bullets. I hope so, yeah. I hope to have 6 months. No, I hope long before 6 months. Look, Russia's losing a lot of young people, and so is Ukraine. And it should have never been started.
So that is it. There is the amount of death that is going unreported. What we hear is how resilient the Ukrainians are and how evil the Russians are. But we forget that these soldiers are like mercenaries in the hand of their own government. They have no right to say, no, I will not go. They can't reject to go. They fight. Even those that were not initially soldiers, who were conscripted to join, you have no right to say, I will not go. So they are dying, most of them, against their own will. It doesn't matter which side you are on. For me, the side I am on is the side of peace. Anything that is not geared towards sitting on the table and ironing this out, count me off. And anyone that is supporting it, and supporting anything that is not geared towards sitting on the table and talking, it's not on my side. Please, let me know what side you are on. Do you want this war to keep on going until Ukraine wins, as a lot of countries in Europe and America is saying? Do you want the war to continue, or should it stop now? How many more should die? These are young, able-bodied men with their future ahead of them. They are fighting for a land they don't even know when it existed, and they will not know when it will stop existing. And they are losing their precious life. And if at the end they go for peace negotiation, let me tell you, every single soul that died in the war would have died in what does not have value. Because at the end, he didn't defend anything. So he said he doesn't want it to take up to 6 months. Because the only thing in between these two people is just flat line. They are just the stoppers, bullet stoppers. Their bodies are the bullet stoppers. And because of how intense the war is, Nobody, very few people are collected after they're killed. This shouldn't continue. We all are members of this human society. If we cannot use peace negotiation or diplomacy where we should, then we shouldn't be fighting any war. So that takes me to the next point. That is Jack Smith and his brouhaha. Jack Smith has been nuked out of the orbit long time ago, but he wanted to resuscitate himself. He wanted to bring a report like a candy to the media to celebrate for the next 4 years and say, just as George Marshall was doing in the Havenbright case, to give something to the media to gloat over the next 4 years. So here is the news. CNN. Judge Allen Cannon blocks release of special counsel Jack Smith's final report on Trump investigation. District Judge Allen Cannon on Tuesday blocked the release of special counsel Jack Smith's final report on his investigation into President-elect Donald Trump. Her order prevents Smith and the Justice Department from moving forward with releasing the report until the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeal has time to review the emergency motion by Trump's co-defendants to block the report's release. The move comes amid a flurry of legal flings Monday night and Tuesday. Lawyers for Trump have reviewed a draft of Smith's final report related to federal investigation into the president-elect, according to a letter included in our filing from Trump's former co-defendant. In the filing, Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira asked Cannon to block the release of the special counsel report, which is expected in the coming days before Trump is sworn in as president for the second time. The two men, who both work for Trump and have pleaded not guilty to obstruction-related crimes, argued that Smith does not have the authority to release the report because Cannon previously deemed his appointment as special counsel unlawful. The 11th Circuit is currently considering DOJ's appeal of that ruling as well. Cannon was appointed by Trump during his first term in office. So you see, this is a standalone sentence. Just that. Why was it there? That is when the media is doing what they do best. Inject themselves into the news. Anyway, that is how it is. This news came at Trump was having this news conference, and his answer was, that's a brilliant response. And for me, that was a brilliant response. If you don't have the right to do something, you don't have the right to bring it forward, you don't have the right to write on it, and they know it. But as I said, they're looking for a candy to hand to the salivating media to give them something to gloat about the next 4 years. Probably the so-called sentencing that will happen on Friday will not be enough. They need something a little bit extra, something that you need to turn the next page until you lose the meaning in the spin. So finally, I bring you Mark Zuckerberg finally denouncing woke, denouncing censorship, and denouncing fact-checkers who are more ideological oriented than the people they are fact-checking. So, in this short recorded video, Mark Zuckerberg said it out himself. And I want you to listen. It's 5 minutes. Just pick the main point, and then you tell me what you think.
I want to talk about something important today, because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political, but there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US.
How significant is that? The fact checkers are the main reasons where a lot of people were censored, even renowned doctors, because they talked about vaccine. What they know, they were silenced. By who? The fact checkers, who were neither doctors nor immunologists, but they have the fact, more fact than those who know the fact. So they're getting rid of them. What are they replacing them with? Not a fight. More speech, not closing off speech completely. They remove the fact checkers and put a note under. This is where this information is coming from. Go and read the right information. It's like saying, do your own due diligence. Here is where you can start. By the way, before we continue, if you're finding any value in this, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's make this a community affair. So that is what he's on. And I think this all started with that single meeting to Mar-a-Lago. Let's hear him out.
After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system. Second, we're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse. What started as a movement to be more inclusive has increasingly been used to shut down opinions and shut out people with different ideas, and it's gone too far. So I want to make sure that people can share their beliefs and experiences on our platforms. Third, we're changing how we enforce our policies to reduce the mistakes that account for the vast majority of censorship on our platforms. We used to have filters that scanned for any policy violation. Now, we're going to focus those filters on tackling illegal and high-severity violations. And for lower severity violations, we're going to rely on someone reporting an issue before we take action. The problem is that the filters make mistakes, and they take down a lot of content that they shouldn't. So by dialing them back, we're going to dramatically reduce the amount of censorship on our platforms. We're also going to tune our content filters to require much higher confidence before taking down content. The reality is that this is a trade-off. It means we're going to catch less bad stuff, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down.
So that's a very important point. We're going to catch less bad stuff, but reduce the number of innocent people that suffer. You see that? That is the essence of the law. That is the essence of policy. Policy is meant to guard the innocent, to protect the innocent from the bad people. But what they did recently, I think, in the Western world is to twist it upside down so that more innocent people are suffering the scourge of censorship. Yet, the bad stuff are still having access because bad things will always happen and there's nothing you can do. You can do much, but you can't eliminate bad things. You can't. You can try at least to reduce the amount, but it's impossible to eliminate bad things. So the best thing is to concentrate on innocent people and do as much as possible to reduce the amount of bad things going through. That way is win-win for the society. So let us give him one last shot and then we move on.
Fourth, we're bringing back civic content. For a while, the community asked to see less politics because it was making people stressed. So we stopped recommending these posts. But it feels like we're in a new era now, and we're starting to get feedback that people want to see this content again. So we're going to start phasing this back into Facebook, Instagram, and Threads while working to keep the communities friendly and positive. Fifth, we're going to move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California, and our US-based content review is going to be based in Texas. As we work to promote free expression, I think that it will help us build trust to do this work in places where there is less concern about the bias of our teams. Finally, we're going to work with President Trump to push back on governments around the world that are going after American companies and pushing to censor more.
You see that? That is where strength comes in. That is where strength comes. We're going to work with Trump to push back against the globalists, the government of the other countries of the world. You hit my country's man's company, we hit your countryman's company. You want us to tango, we tango. You want us to fight, we fight. You want you to give me, I give you. You want a handshake, you get a handshake. And that is to tell you when somebody who has strength is in charge. You don't need to fight. Your glory protects you and your people. And that is what that statement is all about. Trump's glory protects the American businessman. It doesn't matter how you see it.
The US has the strongest constitutional protections for free expression in the world. Europe has an ever-increasing number of laws institutionalizing censorship and making it difficult to build anything innovative there. Latin American countries have secret courts that can order companies to quietly take things down. China has censored our apps from even working in the country. The only way that we can push back on this global trend is with the support of the US government. And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years when even the US government has pushed for censorship. By going after us and other American companies, it has emboldened other governments to go even further. But now we have the opportunity to restore free expression, and I am excited to take it. It'll take time to get this right, and these are complex systems. They're never going to be perfect. There's also a lot of illegal stuff that we still need to work very hard to remove. But the bottom line is that after years of having our content moderation work focus primarily on removing content, it is time to focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our systems, and getting back to our roots about giving people voice. I'm looking forward to this next chapter. Stay good out there, and more to come soon.
Yeah, for a very long time, this is one of the most, I cannot say honest because I don't know if he's faking it or not, but one of the most straightforward statements that has come from that mouth. Another time I may say that he was honest was when he apologized to the families of those who were impacted by his decision when Josh Hawley asked him to do that, because he cannot be faking that. But what they did during COVID was, for me, atrocious. The level of censorship, and not just there, all over the world, has become alarming. And when George Orwell was saying it earlier on in life, I don't think many people believe that it would be this bad. I don't even think he himself imagined that it would be this bad. So let us just put it together. Let's get it together. And if you had anything if you like what you heard, please subscribe for more.